First things I want to talk about is both of these squads have been consistent squads for basically 2 seasons at least now. There's some serious synergy building up. I mean, honestly, when you think of these 2 squads, you think of teamwork, you think of them working together and being synergistic.
Yeah, especially on the side of G2. This is a team that's been together for quite some time using the same roster and have gone through multiple iterations of, how they get their starting lineup, but the core group, like these core 5 guys, have been together for so long now, and they work together so well.
And the players on these teams have competed against one another for so long now. Even though under different banners, they know one another in and out, and they know what to expect coming out of their opponent. So a lot of preparation, I'm sure, has gone into this match, and a lot of expectations too.
Yeah, let's take a look at Fnatic's roster coming on into this one. They're going to be the first team that we talk about. Obviously, 2nd place in Europe right now, and they're going to be looking to try and turn that into a 1st place this week. Only 1 point behind. It's kind of reminiscent of the end of last season. But Techno JJ, NetToilet, and Palmatoro, all 3 of these players are huge names within Europe.
Yeah, and all 3 of them are also kind of known now for constant improvement, even though some of them come from incredible pedigrees, like Palmatoro, 3-time European champion with Team Secret. And kind of when they started this roster of Fnatic, there were such high expectations that they weren't living up to, but they've just consistently gotten better and better as time has gone on.
Yeah, and last week I was very impressed with their draft and their strategies in Game 2 on the 2nd day on Sunday. So if they continue doing that, especially against a team that is very predictable, G2, they like to play carry comps on Honda and try to protect them. They're very predictable. So if Fnatic do their preparation, come in with a strategy like they did last weekend, they can show up and take this match.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned the protect the carry composition. That is classic G2 in a nutshell. Let's take a look at their roster, because honestly, when it comes to G2, it often feels like it is all about Hundo. Even though Keanu and Dark Potato are great players in themselves, the way that this team plays all circles around Hundo.
Yeah, Hundo is their hard carry. He is their hyper carry, but obviously you can't have a hyper carry if you don't have the rest of the team working well around that and playing into that playstyle, buying into that playstyle, so to speak. Everyone wants to be the hero, wants to be that household name. And for Dark Potato and Keanu Nakoa to be willing to sort of almost take a secondary role when it comes to who gets well known on this team, it's really impressive to see them.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we don't talk about this enough. Like you mentioned, Dark Potato is a player that doesn't need the spotlight, doesn't need to carry. He likes to just provide the support that his carry needs if that's the comp that they're playing. So props to him for being that player that says, okay, I'm confident in my play. I don't need the spotlight. I'm just going to provide what my team needs. So G2, an incredibly strong team if they have the strategies that work for them, but they're not very diverse, and that makes them predictable, as I mentioned.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit more about Dark Potato as well, as he's going to be one of our players to watch, and it's going to be a matchup here of him going against Palmatoro, because, we've mentioned how Dark Potato likes to play these kind of more, I guess, defensive, most specifically Lance recently, to try and protect Hundo, but you can't really afford to get away with that in the early game against a player like Palmatoro, because he is more than willing to try and punish you for that defensive play.
Yeah, and you saw on your screen the difference in the KDAs between these 2 players. Obviously, Palmatoro being much more aggressive, much more of a playmaker, getting more kills for himself, whereas Dark Potato is a little bit more reserved. He likes to play these kind of bruiser heroes that are just looking to farm up a bit and protect for his carry, and willing to just sacrifice his own life if it means that Hundo will get out alive or be able to get a couple of extra basic attacks in during a fight.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see whether that's going to be the story of this game coming on through. Now, it's time to start to talk about the draft. Now, we already mentioned how the meta changed over the course of last week. We saw a lot of picks that at the start of the week were incredibly popular, then later on they started to fall off and other things came on in. So what are we expecting to come in? Because there's been a whole week of scrims and practice in between last week and now. What are we expecting to have changed? Is it going to be exactly the same as where we left off at the end of last week?
I feel like it's going to be very similar. A lot of prioritization on the roamers, Grace, Finn, Lance, especially for Fnatic, and prioritization on the carries with Celeste, Scarf, and CP Idris showed up very big last weekend. So I expect it to be very similar. Fnatic already getting Lance. This is a huge pick for them because NetToilet is such a confident player on it. However, G2 get Black Feather. This is a character that's very strong, and we saw throughout the last weekend being picked up repeatedly, especially as first pick. G2 gets it.
Yeah, and by them picking up the Black Feather, that basically means that Fnatic is not going to be taking Celeste. And so Fnatic then just ban the Celeste away. So it's almost a forced ban because you don't want to give the Celeste over without having that hard counter in the Black Feather. But now G2 can just flex that over into an Idris. So a very strong start to this draft for G2.
A comp that Fnatic could go for here is the Fox Fortress that we saw a lot of last weekend. Fnatic played it very well. Fortress goes Tenjibo after Shock Vox gets a heavy attack speed build so that they can apply the mortal wounds constantly, and that comp actually works fairly well against the CP Idris because you can dive on him constantly. So the fact that G2 doesn't have Lance either can help you because they don't have great peeling. G2, however, they still have multiple options with their captain characters. They have the Lyra, they have the Finn.
Yeah, and the other thing is G2 with the Black Feather, that's kind of going away from what we were just talking about is their core playstyle of having Dark Potato be on one of these more supportive type junglers. Like, this is a hero that is going to be a carry. It's going to be trying to jump in onto the backlines, but there isn't really a backline to jump onto from the side of Fnatic.
Yeah, this is very scary for me because Fnatic, this is a comp that you have to get ahead early on with Glaive with Petal. Petal Munions will get wrecked late game against the CP just because of his track ram is AoE and can kill them instantly. So they have to get ahead early in mid game. If they don't, it's going to be very scary for them, and that makes me worry for Fnatic because last weekend, they weren't able to do that constantly.
And I feel like that's kind of a classic story of this matchup, right? Because G2, when you think of this team, you think of the late game team fighting. That is their win condition. They've drafted towards that exact win condition. Are Fnatic going to be able to put the accelerator down enough to take control of this game?
They should be able to, because early on, Blackfeather does not have a great clear speed, whereas Petal has an amazing clear speed. And if Palmatoro can constantly get into that jungle and just disrupt Blackfeather, they can really make things happen.
All right, well, it's just about time to get on into our first game. Let us know who you are supporting on Twitter using that hashtag Vainglory8. It's Fnatic going up against G2. It's the first series of week number 2 of the Vainglory8. We want to know who you guys are cheering for at home, but it's time to get on into our first game. Pass it over to our casters and jump onto the Halcyon Fold.
There's no casters.
Yeah, just stay here for a second in case they throw back. There's no casters or overlay or anything.
Just clearing out the backs together, being that squad goals for Fnatic. But Netolet's doing away a Treant, pretty strong for Fnatic, does give power over to Fnatic if they were to try and make any early moves.
Yeah, it really does. And one key note here is this. Hold on, that was
gonna cut you off. Undor maybe in a bit of trouble here. Fantastic quibble comes through from Kiana Nakoa, slows everyone down, but is it enough? If another Impale connects from Netolet, then it could be Trova Hundor. 1, 2, 3. Let's see if it goes out. It does connect. Rooted. Hundor falling. First blood to Palmatoro, and Fnatic going to walk away with it.
Yeah, and the point I was just getting ready to get into is this Petal, once she hits level 2, is such an aggressive hero, has so much chase potential, and they're actually going to pick up the Elder Treant there off the back of it as well, and now maybe even look for some of the jungle rotation out of G2's jungle. And you know, if a Petal gets ahead, she can be crazy to deal with through all parts of the game. Those Munions stack up damage so quickly.
Yeah, no, certainly, and currently Fnatic in a fairly good spot. They got that first blood, they stole some jungle away. Almost was the triple synchronized backs, which just would have put them ahead as far as items were concerned across the board. It is just going to be Palmatoro, Netolet returning back to their stations with some upgraded items for themselves. And this is where things can start to become scary for a Petal, like you mentioned. Fantastic snowballing ability. Dark Potato, really going to have to watch his toes.
Yeah, especially since at this point in the game, Hundor does not have enough crystal power to become that ranged hero. So as of right now, it is triple melee into Petal, and we know how well Petal handles those kind of situations. However, going into the late game, if Hundor is able to get to that hyper carry phase, there is a lot of potential for him to just take the Munions off very early in the fight. But
Dark Potato, look at him, rooted out, stunned against the wall. Yeah, Nakoa will move in, provides a bit of company for his team. is just going to be Dark Potato walking away. But another Treant stolen here. Dark Potato once more put under pressure. Fnatic making some aggressive moves, clearing out vision, and keeping Hundor under his turret by pushing the lane in.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Fnatic was the #2 seed in the end of the last season, falling just, I think it was a point shy of SK, coming down to the very last game. So obviously, Fnatic going to look to come into this season with that same kind of mentality. They want to be in the top. They actually don't want to fall behind SK this season, obviously, and they're going to be putting their best foot forward to do so. And, with this composition they have, it's all about dominating the early and mid game and not letting Hundor get to that point where Crystal Idris is so difficult to deal with.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see that they're able to do so. Right now, they're putting the pressure onto Dark Potato in the jungle. He's going very low here. He's going to fall down. It's going to be another kill going in for Palmatoro. And where are G2? They're very pushed up the lane. Doesn't seem like Palmatoro or Net2Let are currently interested in moving in just yet. We may see some aggression onto Kiana Nakoa. And JJ just holding his own into the turret.
Yeah, really interesting rotation there from G2 to try to push up the lane. I think if Kiana Nakoa would have rotated over to Dark Potato, got a polite company down, gave him that additional fortified health, we might have seen him make it out on a sliver there and not give another kill over to this Petal, who did acquire that first blood bounty as well as that second kill. Frostburn now online as the jungle shop has come together. Now Petal is going to have such an easier time chasing down those targets when she's able to get that slow multiple times during a fight.
Yep, it's going to be difficult, I think, for Kiana Nakoa to escape if he's under fire. I think the one thing that Black Feather has going for him is 3 movement spells. He has the double rose offensive and the faint of heart, meaning that he can kind of negate Frostburn's slows just a little bit. Very difficult to actually slow him down, but if he's fighting over camps like this, he could be in trouble. There's going to be a lot of damage going down onto him. JJ roaming down as well. Fnatic looking like they want to take away the Crystal Sentry, but it's just too risky at this point. G2 very quick rotations.
Yeah, there's a lot of gold sitting in JJ's pocket, as we've seen. He just rotated, bought that Sorrow Blade, as well as Net2Let picked up a Fountain for himself, which Kiana Nakoa does not have. So now this is going to be that Sentry, and will it be more?
Sentry defeated.
Last week, Fnatic set a competitive record by taking away the Crystal Sentry, completely eliminating it at just 8 minutes 9 seconds. Pretty impressive stuff. Right now, though, maybe overextensions. Net2Let should be okay for now. The one thing that I think Fnatic have to be careful of here, and we kind of talked about draft earlier, Dominomine, is that Palmatoro on this Petal going to be having a lot of early game power, but as soon as Crystal Idris really is hitting some high damage stats, he's going to be stacking up very quickly and easily off Petal, clearing out those minions as well. Dark Potato onto JJ. Almost looked like an execution may come through, but he didn't have that Feint of Heart available to pop those Heartthrob stacks.
Yeah, and one thing to make note of the Crystal Idris, actually, hold on, Dowsy. A lot of damage.
Yeah, so much fighting going on. A double impale comes through, spontaneous combustions entering. Right now, it's all just poke on Fnatic's side. They've got their fountain ready. They got those healing flasks available, at least on Palmatoro. JJ and Net2Let don't quite have them up. Dark Potato going to isolate Palmatoro. Net2Let goes in. There's the fountain. They've isolated Dark Potato, blown him up. And a fountain laid from Kiana Nakoa going to mean that he cannot survive. Now it's Kiana Nakoa slowed by Frostburn, easily taken out. Hundor last man standing, but a good Shimmer Strike will get him away. Now it's going to be Fnatic looking to invade.
Yeah, they definitely want to take away some of this jungle again. As far as you can get a Petal ahead, it's so much easier to really snowball the game as they're going to focus on this other Crystal Sentry. But for Hunter on this Idris, you touched on it a little bit earlier that, as he gets later on into his build, he's going to stack up very quickly in the fights. And one thing to make note of is when he does get that Broken Myth online, which will likely be his 3rd item after the Alternating Current, those basic attacks, because they do crystal damage, will also scale up with that Broken Myth. So not only will the chakrams hit like a truck, but those basic attacks, as you get that higher percentage of damage outcome, will start to function very similarly to a weapon carry with a breaking point. So those are things to make note of, but oh no, JJ gets out.
Yeah, just about escapes there. It's kind of the power of CP Idris that he's pretty much played like a weapon power laner. Just has those crystal power items, lots of mobility as well. Hundor pushing in the lane, Doesn't quite have that alternating current yet. Has a substantial amount of gold, but it's just poke. These turrets, very easy to take down in update 2.8 due to the fact that they have reduced health on them compared to previous updates. Means that teams can really look to hard push if a misrotation comes about. But right now, Fnatic once more invading. Dark Potato going very low. Crystal Sentry should just give him the aid he needs to escape here, but maybe Fnatic look to start it up again. Taking it down. Here comes Kiana and Nakoa to scare them away. And JJ rotating as well. Fnatic may be caught out here. Undor, he's looking for Palmatoro. Fountain's gonna come out. Net2let on the front line. JJ moves on in. Impale misses from Net2let. Look at that. Chakram dancing, Palmatoro dead, and it's 1 kill for G2, moving for more. JJ the target, looking to return fire, but he will go for the afterburn out, and that's gonna be the anchor toss from Kiana Nakoa, blocked on up by Net2let. So G2 starting up a gold miner, but it's in full vision. Fnatic not going to allow this to happen. They're moving in, looking to contest here, but how much they commit. Clay very good at stealing these away.
Immense
Doesn't
gold
quite
payout
get the steal he
collected.
wants. G2 going to move away with a huge amount of gold.
Yeah, it was actually a really good trampoline coming out of Palmatoro that got him over the wall, out of danger, but then they re-engaged, and that Crystal Idris just makes such short work of Petal. Those chakrams pass through all the Munions and Petal, and we saw those big damage spikes coming down. Petal does not have a whole lot of base health, so that is something also to make note of. But now let's see, will we be looking for this final Crystal Sentry over here?
I think this is number 2.
Crystal Sentry
Oh, it is eliminated.
eliminated.
I have not been keeping count to nominate. Thank God you're here to do that for me. Wow, pretty quick from Fnatic. It's clearly part of their game plan, as we saw last week, setting the record at 809. Not quite that, but still, pre-10. That's pretty good going. Now Fnatic on this pedal, gonna have a lot of free roam in the jungle.
Yeah, and they actually take down that first turret, and as mentioned earlier, they do have lower health in this patch. It's actually down to 3,000 from 4,000, so a pretty sizable amount as well. But to compensate that, the gold has been reduced as well. And now it is G2 looking to get a turret of their own.
Yeah, this is a mistake from Fnatic. The rotation from them, not quite timed well enough, and it is going to be the entirety of G2 walking away. Don't really want to be giving away that 600 gold back to your opponents. That's things practically back towards even, when it could have been a lead starting to accumulate for Fnatic. They do still have that gold lead and the kill lead at this point, with no Crystal Sentry. Like mentioned, they can move into the jungle like this and just continue to put the pressure onto Dark Potato, also forcing G2 to group up, share experience between them, further setting behind Dark Potato. So Fnatic really trying to do their best to continue this pressure game that they have on G2.
Yeah, and that's really the point that they need to continue to make, is they need to win out this early and mid game, and giving up a turret off of a bad rotation is just not the way to do so, because that is going to get Undor that much closer to a position where he can essentially single-handedly carry the fights, and it's actually a boots use out of Kiana Nakoa there to get out safely. But nothing's going to come of it from either team, Dowsy. So, again, we need to see the side of Fnatic, push their advantage while they have it, because Undor is going to make it very difficult for Petal as the game goes on, and he's getting awfully close to that broken myth. He should have it in, about 250 gold here.
Yeah, that's really close. That's this wave here. Undor should be able to back and pick it up straight away. Fnatic trying to take the gold miner off the map. As a response, it's going to be Kiana Nakoa taking a lot of damage. Great Impale comes on to Dark Potato, but they're focusing towards Kiana Nakoa, trying to take the Crocodile down. Dark Potato on top of Palmatoro. Spontaneous combustion keeping him alive. Now Undor in trouble as he gets rooted up. Dark Potato trying to find a kill, but he cannot onto Palmatoro. It's an ace for Fnatic. 3-0 in that team fight. Gold miner going to go over to them. 7-1 in this game, and it seems like Fnatic have a strong lead.
It was actually a really good opportunity there for G2 to turn that around, but unfortunately Kiana Nakoa dropped so quickly on in that fight. He did have to fountain himself, and he didn't get any of that benefit really onto Idris or onto Blackfeather. And once the big river troll was down, it was a matter of Petal facing out Dark Potato in the jungle, while Techno JJ Net2let took down Undor in the lane. And, that's a pretty big advantage now for the side of Fnatic, as they were able to pick up a gold mine off the back of that.
So I want to talk items with you, Denominate. We see Hundor picks up his Broken Myth, but talk to me about this Petal build that we see coming out. First item, Frostburn. Second item, Shatterglass. That's a lot of damage.
It is a lot of damage, however, it's not the ramping up damage that we know Petal can have once she gets that Broken Myth online.
Ooh, fantastic Crucible keeps Hundor alive. Looks like he should just be able to walk away. Palmatoro quivered up. Another Crucible used by Fnatic to block the turret shot coming through. Fnatic just teasing us there, Denominate.
Yeah, definitely, you know, good opportunity for them. They got a lot of damage down on Hundor. It will force him back, but now it looks like he might be ready to set something up here in the jungle. Kiana Nakoa is coming over. Dowsy, will Fnatic turn around on this?
Thing is, they use their Crucible. Kiana Nakoa should know this. Force to Court could come out at any time. All depends on if G2 really want the fight or not. Crystal Infusion, Weapon Power Infusion on Techno JJ, on Palmatoro. It's a big fight breaking out. Look at that, spontaneous combustion in the middle of the maw. Techno JJ diving in, instantly meets his demise, and now Fnatic on the run. Here comes the Force to Court. Palmatoro will block it himself. Fnatic should be safe to walk away.
Yeah, I don't think either team can really take a whole lot off of this. The death timers are still very low, and with the wave in the situation it is, G2 can't even force down a turret. So overall, you know, yeah, Techno JJ did drop for his first death of the game, but there's nothing objective-wise that the side of G2 can capitalize off of it. They weren't able to get a turret. Petal and Lance were healthy enough that pushing into that Crystal Sentry really could have changed that fight very quickly with the additional slow and damage that Sentry is able to put out. Now Techno JJ is back on the map. He does have 3 items complete, the Poison Shiv, which is going to give him some additional sustain, as well as remove some of the healing that Kiana Nakoa can give to his teammates. And then he also has that Sorrow Blade and Tension Bow for the raw upfront burst and sustainable damage throughout the fight.
Yeah, the one thing he's missing is a strong amount of defense. Almost has that Aegis. In fact, he does now. Whoa, Impale comes through. It's 2-man. Now it's going to be G2 backing away. You have to be careful. Broken Myth stacking up. You can stack onto every part of Petal, whether it be the seeds, the minions, or Petal herself. And that's kind of what makes CP Idris pretty good into Petal, because of those auto attacks doing CP damage. And maintain those stacks fairly easily. Currently sitting on 3 as he just dances around. But I have to be very careful here. Their supposed power, almost like it's been cashed in just due to one team fight. G2 hitting power spikes and fusing up as well in the middle of the map. It's all about this Kraken right now for both these teams. And it looks like G2 are feeling comfortable to march Fnatic back into their base. Of course, Fnatic do have a Crystal Sentry that they have to remember exists. You can't overextend at this point. There is a lack of armor on the side of Fnatic that Dark Potato possibly can abuse. Blind check from Net should be okay for now. G2 looking to push the wave.
Yeah, G2 actually in a really good spot right now, and I do want to make note that Hundor still has the healing flask in his pocket, and that proc is ready to go, and that amount of barrier and healing at level 12 in a late game fight can actually be very misleading. You know, if the side of Fnatic commits a little bit too hard and that 30% healing ends up coming through out of that item. However, that does mean he doesn't have additional defense or additional offense to his name, and he has committed into the tier 2 armor, so he likely will not have a block Dowsy. So it's going to come down to him using the Shroud Step and using the Shimmer Strike at just the right moments to make sure he's not getting locked up in any of these fights. Because obviously Lance with the Root and the Githian Wall, maybe even an Echoed Githian Wall at some point in this game, could really spell a lot of danger for Hundor on this race.
Yeah, we've already seen Kiana Nakoa using his Crucible to block up either an Impale or an Afterburn coming out of Fnatic. Purely just focusing his own reflex block onto Hundor. Here it comes, the Afterburn. There's that Crucible. Hundor, though, in a lot of trouble. Going to use that Shimmer Strike to reposition. Pops the Healing Plus. They're looking for the damage here. Fnatic moving on in. Fnatic losing their lives. Palmatoro is dead. A quiver onto 2. Forced Accord will not connect, but it does not matter because Nectalet's the last man standing. And Dark Potato going to take him on down. A double kill for the Black Feather. And ace the G2. And a Kraken to be taken.
Yeah, 17.5 minutes in this game. Kraken is on the board, and it will be looking like Dark Potato coming to push this wave underneath the turret, and should actually have enough damage to take it. So that is going to be a big swing now over to G2. And again, I just don't think Fnatic did a good enough job in that early and mid game, pushing their advantage while they had it. And now it's a matter of, you know, this could potentially be a game-winning push if G2 is able to find a kill or two with this Kraken as it pushes towards the turret.
Yeah, no, I think this is a massive turning point for G2. We already discussed that the turning point had already came for the team, but right now it's blindly obvious. It's going to be a turret defense game for Fnatic. Without that broken myth, you kind of touched on it but got cut off. Hamatora has no ramp-up damage on this pedal. Techno JJ has no break to put him of his own. It's all about the burst for the team, and if G2 can weather that storm, burst really going to mean nothing. This first turret almost down, going to lose its life in just a second. Hundor managing to get 4 broken myth stacks, make that 3 as it starts to expire. Is keeping them alive for now. We'll be up to 4 in just a second, and this Kraken's only at half HP. Fnatic have to make a move here, you think? There's an impale onto 2. It's both the carry and the jungler, but they can't move in. Losing too much health from the chakrams, from the poke from G2, and the second turret goes down. Only one more stands in between G2 and a victory here. That Kraken has finally hit a health that G2 can't commit to. They're going to back out of the base. 2 turrets to themselves, but it might not be over, because Fnatic have popped the wall treads. They're looking to get into range. Frostburn to slow down Dark Potato. Does get tagged by the spontaneous combustion. Another trampoline forward. Impale missing though, and G2 should be out of it, you would think. Let's see what happens. Fnatic perhaps an overextension. Have to criticize them last week, making some desperation plays. Right now, they are going to back away knowing they can't, and talk to me about this. No Eve of Harvest, Frostburn. Hundor on Twitter making a big case for it last week during a discussion. Reckons it's the best 4th item on Idris.
It definitely can be. It does give you that additional utility in slowing the enemy down, and when you have a Finn on your team, that can be very, very useful in keeping yourself in a safe position, because obviously if you extend too far ahead of Finn, you lose out on the defensive capabilities that he's allowing your team to really sustain through those fights. That fortified health is so huge at this point in the game that it's really necessary. So if you're giving Keanu Nakoa any time at all to stay in a fight, giving Dark Potato just that little additional give to the enemy's movement speed to help keep him on target, as obviously we had some changes to Faint of Heart recently. You know, it's really beneficial, at least with this composition, as well as gives additional damage over the Eve of Harvest. But you know, this is a pretty difficult situation now, because Fnatic, if they lose out on one fight, there is easily enough damage from G2 that they can clean up a victory off of the push.
Alright, Netalet impaling over onto Hundor. Looking to escape here. That's going to be a good block coming up, and a Shipper Strike to reposition him. Fnatic have to be careful now. Can they get onto Hundor? Stop him from stacking? No, they can't. They can't get Dark Potato either. Looks like G2 will escape, but the Kraken she spawned. Will Fnatic pull the trigger? Is the question. There's a Scout Trap providing vision. There's a Crocodile providing vision as well as Keanu Nakoa moves around. G2 not quite able, Fnatic not quite able to find the kills and not really able to get anything off this. They're just having to backport and heal up.
Yeah, they ended up recalling to heal up, and it was really unfortunate for them because Hundor did drop so low in that fight before he was able to stack anything up, really. But they didn't get a kill, and now that's just going to lead to another fight. If they would have at least picked up Hundor, they probably could have made a push onto this Kraken, but unfortunately were unable to do so. A really good Atlas from Netalet did land on both Dark Potato and Hundor in that last fight, which really reduced the damage that that G2 was able to put out, and that's why they were able to take an advantage. But, you know, you're not always going to be in a situation versus a ranged and melee hero where you can get that double Atlas Palter down. So we'll just have to see how they can pick out this next fight. Good block.
Forced to Cord used and blocked. Fnatic know they can't fight because Hundor's already up to 3 stacks and they've already lost so much health. Look at that, once more, Netalet down to half. They're having to force a fountain out to keep Netalet in the fight. That's not good. Now G2, knowing that Netalet's weak, Needs to start up this Kraken. Techno JJ spotted out. Hundor just dancing around. Kraken to half HP. Fnatic, will they strike for the steal is the question. 3/4. It's getting close here. Here they come, looking for the steal. Fnatic, can they get it? No, they can't. It goes over to G2. And look at the health bar on Techno JJ going very low. Hundor trying to escape, finds the first kill. Looking for the second onto Palmatora as well. Palmatora tries to dance away, but he cannot. It's a double for Hundor. And net to let. Can he backport? He can, but he's only lands against 3 and a Kraken. Only a single Vainglory crystal turret standing in the way of G2 in game 1.
Yeah, and this should easily be a victory now going over to G2. All 3 members are alive. This Crystal Idris absolutely destroys objectives. And with the Kraken marching down the lane now, there's just really nothing that Netrolette can do. The death timers are too long for Techno JJ and Palmatoro. And actually it will be Netrolette dropping as well. That's now an ace, and there is absolutely nothing that Fnatic can do as we close out this game, Dowsing.
Man, incredible stuff from G2, showing their ability to scale into the late game, and once they hit that win condition, which is 4 damage or even 3 damage items on CP Idris, and getting that Black Feather to a tanky assassination point, able to strike and find the fights that they need to take game 1. G2 1-0 up against Fnatic. Let's throw it back to Munchables.
Well, G2 starting things off strong in this series. Fantastic start from them. And honestly, I feel like this series went kind of exactly how we were talking about it before in the desk. Fnatic needed to be aggressive early. They started things off strong. Then the later in the game you get, the more G2 kind of comes into their own and makes things happen.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great start for Fnatic. It looked like they were going to be able to snowball and get the game kind of out of control, but eventually you hit this point when you're up against a composition like what G2 had, where those Munions just aren't able to survive long enough for Petal to be relevant.
Yeah, and the reason why Fnatic weren't able to keep going strong until the late game is because they threw away their lead. They started making mistakes and they gave away gold back, especially during the mid game where G2 were able to win team fights and get back, like, catch up in gold.
Yeah, and I mean, let's talk about how they got that lead first. We have a replay of one of the fights that happened early on, which was Fnatic kind of putting their foot down, and this was the first ace of the game that finally came through.
Yeah, this is before there's really a ton of damage on the side of G2, and you can see how much work Petal is able to apply. You know, focusing even on the Finn first, because they just know that Black Feather isn't going to be really much of a threat to them yet.
Yeah, I mean, this team fight too, it was a great demonstration of catching the roamer out of position. Keanu, we mentioned last week, he needs to step up his gameplay, especially his positioning. He was caught out of position, they focused him, they got him down, and then they switched targets when they needed to. When Black Feather went on to Petal, Petal just started focusing him, and Glaive went on Idris. They just got them both killed, and that's how they won the team fight.
Yeah, and then later on in the game, obviously things started to slow down for Fnatic. They couldn't just keep control of the game in the same way. Then later on, this was when G2 managed to grab themselves a Kraken.
Yeah, and you can see at this point already, like, there's really no Munions left. 2 of them respawn, they immediately get taken out again. And Palmatoro, just when you're a Crystal Petal, if you don't have your Munions, you're not going to have any effect in a team fight.
Exactly, and you saw this game too. Once G2 started building a little bit of defense, they had the Coda Plates on Idris and Black Feather. Glaive wasn't able to burst them down completely, and that's how the team fights got stalled. The Munions started dying too fast. Finn Quibbles, the AoE stuns were coming through, and they started winning team fights just because their comp started becoming stronger.
Yeah, and then we see another team fight that kind of rounded things out for G2, and it's very similar to that last team fight that we just watched, as you'll see once again, Petal can't get those Munions down, and we see that G2 just control the situation.
And again, trying to steal the Kraken obviously almost always puts you into a risky position, and this time they were able to try and get the damage onto Hundor, but just none of it is really sticking. And there's, again, the Munions. We're going to keep talking about it for this game because it was the key factor. When those Munions got destroyed, Palmatoro was all of a sudden not able to dish out anywhere near the level of damage of what G2 has.
Yeah, honestly, this is an interesting situation. I wasn't necessarily expecting G2 to just kind of stroll into game 1 and win it quite so convincingly, because honestly, beyond sort of 15 minutes, it felt like this was G2's game and they were just in control of everything. So now Fnatic, being the favorites coming into this series, is this going to kind of knock them emotionally? Are they going to be kind of taking a step back on this one?
I don't think so. I think they just need a better draft. If you're going to pick the Petal, you're going to pick the Glaive. I mean, they worked correctly like they wanted them to. They had a lot of early game aggression. They got the lead. You just need to play it cleanly from there on. You can't throw away your lead, because the moment better scaling comp is going to catch up, is going to start winning the team fights.
Yeah, and with the Petal pick, I feel like you can't really pick the Petal into a composition that has multiple heroes that do AoE. You know, if the Petal gets caught in a quibble, those Munions are dead. Idris, Chakram, Munions are dead. Blackfeather, Rose Offensive, Munions are dead. So that's all three of them have ways to deal with those Munions, and you need to pick Petal just into smarter situations. That's why it's being used as a counter to Krull. Krull can't kill the Munions. You know, so enemies like that don't have that excellent Munion killing ability, that's when Petal can really shine. And so it was really just a compositional thing.
Honestly, to me, it feels like Petal is always more effective on the B side. Every single time we see it picked on the A side, it never seems to quite work out in the same way because it is such a heavy counter pick. Now, looking towards this next draft then, I mean, I wasn't expecting Petal to be a priority pick for either of these teams coming in. I don't expect that to be a theme of the series either. What else are we going to see coming out from these guys? Because, you know, Palmator is this guy that we mentioned. He needs to be aggressive. He needs to take control of this game. What else can he lean on to fulfill those roles?
I mean, he has multiple characters. He's played Glaive in the past, Carve, Jungle in the past, strong late game carries where they can team fight even if they fall behind or if they don't do great early on. That's what Fnatic needs. And what's exciting is that G2 are pulling something different so that they can make themselves more diverse. We mentioned before the draft how predictable they are. They pulled the Blackfeather jungle. That's a carry jungler that we haven't seen Dark Potato on too much before. So I'm excited to see G2 diversing from their regular strategies to make themselves a little bit more unpredictable.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is already an interesting draft to me because G2 banning away the Blackfeather, this could mean that they want to go for a first pick Celeste.
Yeah, or they could try and pick up, right now, Catherine and Grace both available. So there's plenty of options here for G2, but I'm liking the fact that teams are really starting to prioritize this Blackfeather, either picking or banning it, but they are going to go for that first pick Celeste. They feel like if Blackfeather is not there, then there is no hard counter to Celeste, and they'll be able to win no matter what the rest of the draft has.
I mean, they have multiple options when it comes to combining that Celeste with a roamer. Catherine is still on the table, Grace still on the table, and Finn is still on the table. Either one of these three characters can do really well with the Celeste, and that's what G2 are saying. We get the carry that we really want, and then we're gonna get a comp that can support it no matter what you're gonna draft against us, unless Fnatic does something crazy like banning Finn and then picking Catherine with a Grace jungle, which I don't expect.
Yeah, I would expect them to maybe ban away the Catherine here just because you don't want to give that over. But then, you know, obviously they're likely to give Finn to G2. They could grab the Idris, however.
I want to talk a little bit about this Grace pick because speaking to D'Enzio after the finals at the championship, he was saying that one of their biggest flaws in draft was going with this Celeste into a Grace. How much of a counter pick do we feel like this Grace is? Is that a significant enough thing to say that Fnatic are winning the draft right?
I mean, what's so great about Grace is when you max her A, the range on it increases and becomes such a great initiating tool that when Celeste is trying to poke, you can just engage on her. That's what's so great about Grace. On top of that, the fact that she has so much healing, she can sustain her carries throughout the team fight as they're trying to kill Celeste. So it's a huge pick, especially since also it can apply a little bit of early pressure if she goes into the jungle with her mobility. But it's not all about her. Cruel gets picked up. This is a strong comp, but Fnatic hasn't picked up their carry first, and they're trying to just not predict what, instead counter what G2 are going to be able to pick up here as their last two characters or heroes.
I would heavily expect to see a Catherine come out from the side of G2. Catherine is really good into the Grace, and then adding the Batiste as another form CC. Having three heroes that can all provide crowd control is so strong against Grace, because Grace, if she gets crowd controlled out of her ultimate, all of a sudden that big heal isn't coming through, and like the whole purpose of having a Grace is kind of gone. So this could be a very difficult game for NetToilette here because of the composition that G2 have drafted.
I don't like the Baptiste pick from G2 just because it makes them double CP, unless he's going to go weapon power Baptiste. The reason why I say that is because once Cruel stacks his defense, he can become unkillable late game because he has to only build shield against this composition. I wish they had picked up Glaive. It serves the same purpose with multiple CC, the Glaive afterburns chained into a Catherine stun, and it would have given you a little bit of diversity when it comes to your damage output. But they do go for the Baptiste. Gwen comes out from Fnatic. That's a character that's going to be able to dodge CC with her skedaddle battle, but there is so much CC coming from the side of G2. I don't think it's going to work out too great. What's going to end up happening is G2 going to be able to use their range advantage to win team fights later on, while Fnatic again going to have to get ahead mid-game. And it's a strategy that Fnatic hasn't done well, not this weekend, not last weekend. I don't know why they keep going back to it.
Honestly, I find it interesting as well that we may well have double CP versus double weapon power coming on in here with the Cruel and the Gwen. What do we make of that one?
We could actually end up seeing a Crystal Power Gwen. We saw it, I think, once last season, but it was, if I recall correctly, I could be wrong on this one, but it was into a Baptiste, and the range and the burst that Gwen was able to put out. You know, one of the big strengths of a Baptiste is his ability to kite and sustain. Gwen doesn't let him kite. Gwen just says, you know what, I'm just going to blow you up with a huge chunk of damage and then rinse and repeat. So I think the Gwen pick could work out here, but like Zora was saying, it's a very risky composition for Fnatic.
Well, we'll see if they can pull it off. Their backs are against the ropes already. It's 1-0 to G2 so far, and we'll see whether they can turn that into a 2-0 or if Fnatic are pushing this to 3 games. Hashtag Vainglory8 to let us know whether you're supporting G2 or Fnatic coming on into this one. But it's just about time to get on into our second game of this series. It's time to pass it back to our casters and get onto the fold.
It's the double D, Dalcy, Denominate, the double CP for the side of G2, and the double weapon power for the side of Fnatic. Lots of doubles happening here, Denominate. Talk me through it.
Well, I think the double CP on the side of G2 can be a huge threat, just because when Celeste gets to that late game point, she just really doesn't care about shield that you've built. So that is a huge spike of damage that Celeste will be able to put out. On the other hand, though, obviously Gwen, all about that early and mid-game spike potential, can really put a lot of hurt down onto Hundor on the Celeste, especially with that skedaddle, so you're able to avoid some CC built into your kit, so saving a reflex block.
Ooh, look at that. Hundor able to secure the little sentry for the side of G2, and it is going to be everyone rotating up. Nettelet forced to backport as well. Picks up a Dragon Blood contract. That's exciting. Race now going to have a lot of burst potential.
Yeah, obviously going to be looking for that early aggression, getting that bonus damage out of the captain, especially on a Grace who has a lot of potential to stick onto an enemy target, both with the Benediction and then obviously just her natural movement speed, especially with the boots. Down to the Koa trying to stack up early here, and this is really smart out of the Catherine right now.
Now, I guess there's a potential that Techno JJ goes Crystal Power Gwen, typically very good into double mages. I have to see if that's a possibility. The other potential, I think, is win early game very heavy. Fnatic, though, with Nettelet falling, got a First Blood going to G2, and that's a strong early game for the side of G2. I don't think that's what Fnatic want at all.
It's definitely not what they want, but the chain CC potential that we have out of the side of G2, obviously we have that Merciless Pursuit, the Core Collapse, the Ordained. Eventually we'll have that Fearsome Shade, which if you use it against an enemy up against a wall, it acts very similarly to a stun, because they will not be running away from you. So that is another thing that Dark Potato has available in his kit. But now, another stack of Captain of the Guard found onto Palmatoro. Getting Catherine tanked up in this early game is really smart, because if your captain gets poked out by the huge amount of damage that Gwen is going to be able to output, it's going to result in the rest of the fight going very poorly for you. So this game is going to come down to how coordinated G2 can put together their chain CC here. And here it is right here in the lane.
Yeah, Nettelet in a lot of trouble here. He's going to get Core Collapse and taken on down by Hundor. And we have a quick look at the items. You see Techno JJ working towards that tension bow. Not going to be that crystal powered Gwen. Going to be the double weapon power composition. And this is fantastic from Fnatic if, and this is the win condition, they win in the early game. Right now, due to the heavy amount of CC G2 have for themselves, they are trapping Fnatic, and Nettelet's becoming the butt of a joke for G2. I think Fnatic going to have to be super cautious moving forward in the next maybe 5 minutes, or else they may just give enough gold over to G2 that they don't win early game and G2 is able to scale.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility, as Dark Potato is taking a lot of damage from Palmatoro down here.
Yeah, rotates comes through for Hundor. Palmatoro going to be in a bit of trouble. Good. Holy Nova comes out, and that's going to be that Treant going over to Palmatoro to give him the healing he needs. Auto attack stacking up. Kianako another stun. This should be Palmatoro foring, and then second kill to Hundor. But G2 continuing to move forward. Techno JJ gets stunned up. A lot of damage going out from Dark Potato, the bad mojo going through. G2, fantastic team coordination. Have to be careful under the turret though. Is going to be the turret taking a little bit of damage, but as does G2, and they will have to fall back.
Yeah, and one of the nice things is we do have a lot of crowd control on both sides. The downfall for Fnatic is obviously that Aces High and From Hell's Heart are directional, and they do have distance to travel, so that's going to provide a lot of opportunity for Keanu Nakoa to either block those windups or at least intercept them for his team, because if Hundor and Dark Potato are allowed to go through the fight and ramp up their damage, obviously we'll eventually get a broken myth out of both of them since they are going double crystal power. There's a big safety net for them because of just how tanky Catherine is going to get. And, that's something I touched base on earlier, is Keanu Nakoa has to get these stacks built up if they want to succeed in this game. Oh no!
Palmatoro, he is bursted so quickly. That CC from Palmatoro cannot afford to let it hit you. Reflex block's going to have to be built up. Very quick Shadow Glass comes out of Dark Potato. That's good timing. Should be just enough to keep Fnatic at bay. In fact, moving forward, they may even look for net to let here. Not going to go too deep. They recognize that Palmatoro is on their Crystal Sentry and they have to stop him from taking it.
Crystal
Going to be a collapse from both sides. Palmatoro looking for the exit route, gets stunned up. Core collapse, CC train en route, and Palmatoro will get deleted.
Yeah, they actually killed him before any of the CC wore off there, because just the focus damage coming out of Dark Potato and Hundor against somebody who has very light amount of shield. This is a Shatter Glass, and then a Hundor on Dark Potato, and then Hundor working in his second offensive item. For Kroll to live on that front line without Grace there, he has to get some shield built up. Now, obviously, as Netolite gets the Echo and the Divine Intervention online, there is a lot of additional sustain that he can provide, but with the range of Celeste as she is getting closer and closer to level 8, we do have, obviously, Techno JJ, very squishy Gwen on the backline, very likely to end up being the target for those Divine Interventions.
Nakoa moves forward, finds net to let. He's going to jump in for the damage reduction. 3-man Holy Nova, but a huge Supernova comes through and takes him on out. Dark Potato fearing Palmatoro away, keeps himself alive. Techno JJ lurking. Tension Bow ready to be procced, but G2 moving in for this turret. That's going to be Skedaddle to escape Ordained, but this turret very likely to fall here. Supernova Helo Genesis, they're committing to it. Maybe not too hard. Dark Potato will use his boots to escape, but that turret just sitting on a glimmer of HP has to be under 100. G2 know that the next time they visit it, it's going down.
Yeah, it's going to go down the next time they come into lane. Even one Heliogenesis Supernova would be enough, but oh no!
Palmatoro finds that stun, finds the kill. Good night, Dark Potato. Still no reflex blocks. I guess it's the hard thing when you go up against a double weapon power composition, is knowing that if you build a reflex block, it's almost a wasted item slot because you can't build armor, and you really want to be building armor, but against CC you need it. Very difficult decision to be made. Is going to be reflex finally purchased for Dark Potato. There's that Heliogenesis crashing on the turret. Turret goes down. Hundor very close to death. Will be able to get away for now. The healing flask keeping himself alive. G2 moving on in. A stun onto net to let. A Solar Storm ripping through. Can the bad mojo connect? Oh, it does, but it's not enough. It's all on Yuki and Nakoa. Chase them, but he won't. He'll run into Palmatoro, but he won't find the kill. Net to let gonna escape.
Yeah, Netolite getting very close to level 6 where that Divine Intervention is going to be online. And like you talked about it, we don't really have any blocks out of G2 yet, which is just all the more reason that Keanu Nakoa needs to be on that front line.
Gosh. CC train, CC lock. Good night, Palmatoro. That was looking like it could have been a risky fight for G2. Just the way it started off with Techno JJ, Lurky and Hundor rooted up in the Treant. starting up this Crystal Sentry. Techno JJ gets stunned, blocks the Merciless Pursuit, but a Fearsome Shade will connect, fearing him away. Netelet able to block it himself, meaning that Holy Nova goes off. And Techno JJ escapes. Goldminer, half HP. Techno JJ lurking. Netelet provides distraction. Techno JJ has to move in. Moves in towards, but Hundor pretty happy to fight him off. Here comes Palmatoro. He has that ultimate up. He has the stun. He's moving in for the steal. G2 have overcommitted. They have to escape. It's going to be Kiana Nakoa stunned up and taken on out. Line Invention keeps Palmatoro alive, and Fnatic able to steal the gold mine.
Yeah, and that's a huge ray of light for Fnatic there. It just took a little bit too long for G2 to take down that gold mine because of the threat that Techno JJ and Netelet provided. And now they may be looking to get some damage down on this turret. Don't think they'll have enough to take it, but they can definitely get some poke down. They might just stay to take it, Dowsy, and this is risky.
Yeah, turret does go down, but how much are they going to lose for its silence? That's going to be Netelet going down first and foremost. Can G2 chase further is the question. Kiana Nakoa very quick when he pops his boots in the Merciless Pursuit, but doesn't have the boots up just yet. Does have that Merciless Pursuit ready to go, but I think Fnatic have walked far enough away. Now G2 going to start up on this second turret. Palmatoro and Techno JJ trying to provide threat. The turret doing damage to the members of G2. They haven't dropped the aggro yet. Going to be a burst of damage from his Supernova. Just about it.
Yeah, but it brings that turret down to almost half health off of just getting one kill onto Netelet. And it really shows the amount of power that Hundor brings to the table. He's level 9. He has the overdrive on those Heliogenesis. The additional range allows him some additional safety, which doesn't mean, or means that Celeste doesn't have to commit as much into defense as long as she is staying behind Dark Potato and Kiana Nakoa. Again, the crowd control coming out of the side of Fnatic is all directional, and as you get further away, it does get harder and harder to hit. So obviously, Hundor using positioning as his defense here has finally picked up a reflex block just in case. So we are working into that defense now. Kiana Nakoa has picked up the Atlas Pauldron, looking to get that down. Maybe find one onto Techno JJ and Palmatoro, but that is going to be difficult knowing that Krull is going to want to dive and Gwen is going to want to poke around that backline. So this next fight should be interesting. We do have level advantage for the side of G2, Dowsy, and a pretty sizable range advantage as well.
Yeah, but Fnatic still looking in for this fight. Palmatoro trying to find an entry. Dark Potato stunned. Kiana Nakoa able to block up from Hell's Heart. Fearsome Shade goes out, pushes Netelet away. Techno JJ, Palmatoro looking for a kill, but they're stunned up, rooted on the front line. Palmatoro goes back on in. Dark Potato, is he dead? Kiana Nakoa is trying to find the kill into Netelet. It's a split fight across the map, but Palmatoro the first to die. And now Fnatic have to run because Kiana Nakoa is on top of them. Techno JJ trying to find the kill, but he cannot. Goes down, and it is going to be Netelet running for his life. Should be able to escape G2 to take a gold mine.
Yeah, this gold mine should be pretty uncontested. Netelet is so low, it's super risky of him to try to come in here and get this steal down. And unfortunately,
anyway, almost gets it, but he's going to lose his life.
Gonna lose his life.
The ace buff was never at risk.
Yeah, unfortunately for the side of Fnatic, though, they did have two members confused during that last fight, as well as G2. But when you lose out a fight and you've committed that gold to infusion, and we see it here, Dark Potato drops very, very low, but fortunately Hundor is able to force the opposition back, gets a good stun down onto Palmatoro. Not getting any use out of that infusion there, doesn't quite find the kill, and then G2 turns their attention onto the rest of the members of Fnatic. They do find a kill, they find a gold mine, and eventually find a Netelet as well.
Good stuff coming out of G2. Now picture this. Of course, Aegises have been prioritized from the side of Fnatic. You can see that Palmatoro has one, Techno JJ has one. Palmatoro might even go for a double Aegis at this point, or turn that into a Crucible. Lots of CC available for G2, so the Crucible could come out. There is no Broken Myth or Piercing on the side of G2. Well, I guess now there is. Hundor has a Piercing Shard for himself, but that is it. Dark Potato has nothing.
Yeah, they'll both likely work into a Broken Myth very soon here. I think Dark Potato is going to go for the Halcyon Chargers first, just to get that additional cooldown and movement speed. But overall, you're right, there's not a lot of piercing yet, so the shielding is actually doing a lot of work for the side of Fnatic right now. But as Hundor gets that Broken Myth online, and as Dark Potato gets into that Piercing Shard of his own, that is going to change very quickly. Obviously, Baptiste, not quite as necessary to have as much Piercing early because of your heroic perk. Obviously, stacking up those Soul Shards for your Reap and then getting that bonus Crystal Power does help you deal with the shield without having to commit too much into going into that Piercing Shard. All the infusions now on the map have run out, though.
Yeah, no, that's important because everyone has to refresh before the next fight comes out. TechnoJJ has one in his inventory, in fact, pops it, Breaking Point picked up as well. I'm going to throw out a play-by-play prediction. Dark Potato, not going towards Halcyon Chargers, going towards Echo, and G2, in true G2 fashion, going to rely on a hyper carry Hundor. Let's see what happens. Is Netolet getting stunned, Palmatoro charging on in, Hundor blocking up. Now that he has to fight, great Fisham Shade comes out, there's the Blast Drum, they're all silent, this is destruction, G2 taking down Fnatic, Netolet last man standing but not for long, a double kill for Hundor, and they just destroy Fnatic.
Yeah, I'm not quite at a Kraken yet, but it will be up very soon, and G2 is actually going to get a gold mine off the back of that ace as well. So overall, really good fight out of G2. As we see, Palmatoro dives in, going for Hundor. The From Hell's Heart did get blocked, though. Now, there wasn't quite enough damage that came through on Hundor. Just a sliver of health is going to help him survive. And then as Netolet drops, that is a clean ace going over to G2. They don't lose out on anything. They pick up a turret, they pick up a gold mine, and now they're just keeping the aggression up, Dowsy, forcing the side of Fnatic back.
I was right. Play-by-play predictions work. Dark Potato did get the Echo. How do you block something, Denominate, if there's too many things to block? That's G2's composition, and just rely on Hundor to get stacked up on his Broken Myth. You saw in the last fight, the first Blast Tremor was blocked, but of course the Fearsome Shade wasn't, the second Blast Tremor wasn't. Fnatic just couldn't do anything.
Yeah, definitely a scary composition to go into. Even the double Crystal Power really hasn't shown any signs of fatigue on their damage yet. And, you know, you did call it out, the Echo is a good choice as well, but here we go.
Hundor's in a lot of trouble. Kiana Nakoa does get stunned. Fearsome Shade gets stunned by an Ace's High, but Palmatoro's dead. No, he's not. Divine Dimension keeps him alive. Hundor dead. They've turned the fight. G2 have fallen. And Kiana Nakoa will go down for a double kill. The Ace comes through at 16 minutes. Fnatic able to find 3. They're going to take a lot off the board.
Yeah, it was a really good time for Fnatic to find a fight. The Kraken is on the board, and obviously with a Kroll, he can start that up by himself without putting himself at any danger. They'll take a turret and then likely turn their attention to cleaning up that additional objective. And this could be a really good push. As we get into this replay, we will see that a From Hell's Heart stunned up Kiana Nakoa, and Hundor got taken down so quickly. The Fountain was forced so early on in that fight. Palmatoro lives because of the Divine Intervention, is able to find a kill onto Dark Potato. As we get back into the game, though, the Kraken Steel just barely missed by Hundor. It was so close, Dowsy, so close.
I thought it was coming out. I genuinely thought that Kraken was going over, but it does not. Now Fnatic has the beast on the Halcyon Fold. They've taken down 2 turrets. Choke point turret remains. A strong place for Celeste to fight and stack up that Broken Myth. So much CC still available for G2 as well. Gonna have to use it this time. Not get stunned up. Great stuns came out from both Netolet and TechnoJJ onto Dark Potato and Kiana Nakoa. This Kraken's already at half HP! And a great stun onto TechnoJJ down to half HP. Right now G2 just focusing on this turret whilst Palmatoro's in the middle of it all, is able to escape. It only just gives Broken Myth stacks to Hundor, which will help this Kraken go down even quicker. It's not even going to fall, this turret. They've taken it down before it finds the choke point. Fnatic get literally nothing. And G2 get an infusion of 1500.
Yeah, they absolutely do, and that's not what you want out of a Kraken push. So unfortunately, Fnatic now has just, like you mentioned, shoveled some gold over into G2's pocket, enough to let them all re-infuse. But one thing I do want to make note of is TechnoJJ has gone into the War Treads for his Boots Tier 3. I am interested to see now going forward if he goes into a 4th offensive item. I think with that Minion's Foot picked up, it is confirmed, so obviously that's just now happening. Palmatoro, Tenshabo, Breaking Point, Crucible complete. Gonna try to help the team block out some of that, massive amount of crowd control. But, I'm counting, 2 Blast Tremors, 2 Fearsome Shades, a Core Collapse. That's going to be difficult for any team to deal with, and that's what's so difficult about giving over this Baptiste and Catherine combination.
Not only that, Hundor has a Crucible for his team as well, so can block up other things. Another fight breaking out, Fnatic moving on in, but the Fearsome Shade gonna put Palmatoro into a stun. Here comes the second and forces Net2Let away. Oh dear, the CC too strong. It's only Techno JJ left alive, and he's stunned up by Kiana Nakoa. Techno JJ on Gwen looking to escape, but the Ordain comes out and he turns to face his fate. An ace for G2. They're gonna move towards their choke point turret.
Yeah, they should be able to clean that choke point turret up in a matter of seconds as Hundor just absolutely blows up objectives. In that last fight, Palmatoro just went a little too far, became susceptible to all of that CC, and then a good merciless pursuit came out of the Kiana Nakoa, helped them find Techno JJ for that ace. There's no Kraken for them to take at this point in time, so they will only get one turret off of that push, and yeah, it looks like they're going to go for the Crystal Sentry as well. But at 20 minutes in, taking a taking a single life off the Crystal Sentry is you're a little bit behind on the objective control there.
Yeah, it would have been perhaps risky to overextend for a turret, so G2 going to do as E2 does and play safe. Move back, Ordain onto Net. Palmatoro lurking in the side bush. Great block comes out with the Crucible, but Hundor taking a lot of damage, down very low. Bounce comes out to keep him alive, turning to fight. Fearsome Shape. Solar Storm flies out. Palmatoro almost dead, but gets the hill. Stunned still. Dead. Outright. Fnatic with Techno JJ Net2Let gonna start walking away, but G2 feel they can take the fight. May just turn for the Kraken instead.
Yeah, and this has just been the story of every fight, is Hundor gets dropped so low from the amount of burst that Fnatic has, but then it just ends up being Palmatoro getting locked up a little too far in. Techno JJ is not able to follow up any additional damage. And as this Kraken gets started up, Fnatic knows what's going on here.
Oh, that was so close. The Fearsome Shade just about stops them, and oh no, Net2Let's dead. Not what you want when the Kraken spawns. That's a 50-second death timer.
Yeah, not a good position to be in, and now Techno JJ is getting chased down. Palmatoro is up, so no ace.
He's dead! This is destruction! This is disastrous! Palmatoro last man standing means literally nothing at this point. G2 takes game 1, moving in for game 2 as well as Denominate, and Palmatoro literally can't do anything about it. Stunned up, locked up, just destroyed by the CC from G2. The ace will come through, and G2 showing double CP trumps double weapon power in this European matchup.
Yeah, G2 didn't look all that strong last season, but I know they've had some team things that they've fixed as far as the practice going, and it has really shown. They came through on top 2 games today against Fnatic, who looked so good last season and last weekend. So Dowsy, that is it for our first series. A good showing out of G2 today.
Fantastic showing out of G2, and so many things to talk about. Just looking at that item screen, it is very, very unique. So let's throw it back to our desk to do just that.
Yeah, you're right on that one, Dowsy. Unique is the word for that item screen at the end there. Some interesting builds coming out onto that one. It was honestly a very interesting game because it felt like G2 were the ones being aggressive in the early game, which is the opposite of what we're used to seeing coming out from G2.
Yeah, I mean, they were able to find control early on, using all this crowd control that they had, and just took over. It was massive. The amount of work they were able to do just prevented Fnatic from being able to play the game half the time.
I mean, they just were able to defend off Fnatic very well. I wouldn't say they were playing aggressive, but they were defending, and they were getting the kills and getting the advantages with a comp that's actually weaker early on, which worked out great for G2's favor.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's take a look at some of the fights that happened earlier on in the game. Around 8:45, we have a fight where G2 kind of overcommitted a little bit. It wasn't a perfect game from them.
Yeah, they made a couple of mistakes, but a lot of times it was just abilities that didn't land or didn't connect quite the way they wanted. This time, the Gold Miner put in a lot of work, and they weren't really ready for the healing to be able to that was coming out from the Grace with that ultimate. So, just overall, though, a couple small mistakes here and there, not going to be the end of the world.
Yeah, and then around 14 minutes on into the game, we had an ace coming on through for G2, and this was kind of them starting to really sink their teeth into this game and take complete control.
Yeah, I mean, we see here they're chasing Celeste, they're trying to kill her, and this is the correct idea coming out from Fnatic. They need to dive on Celeste or even Baptiste, but they need to focus single target and try to kill it fast enough, but they weren't ahead in gold. Their comp needed to get ahead early game, mid game. They had a power spike around minute 5 where they had double tension bow. They didn't make great use out of it. They just got only 1 kill on Celeste. So had they been ahead in gold, they would have been able to execute their win condition, which is to dive on a character and kill it fast, but they didn't. They weren't ahead.
And honestly, there was fights later on in the game as well where they were so close to taking out Hundor. They were this close to finishing him off, and then he survives on 200 HP. And the second that happens, you know that the fight is already over. Let's have a look at one of the fights that Fnatic did manage to take control of later on into the game. This is around 15 minutes.
Yeah, and this was just, they were able to get so much damage onto Hundor. He's out of the fight. And then a really bad Fearsome Shade from Dark Potato there. You know, may have been a mistap or something, but it ends up Fearsome Shading just onto Net Toilette, while both Techno JJ and Palmatoro are left free. So just kind of throwing the ultimate in the wrong direction. But that's the only chance that Fnatic really had once we got down the stretch. It was a mistake from G2.
I mean, I think we have to talk about at this point the fact that we've just witnessed G2 2-0ing Fnatic. Let's bear in mind, Fnatic, they went 1-2 in the finals against SK. They were 1 point away from first place for week 1, and now going into G2, a team that's further down the scoreboard, getting 2-0. This is not what I was expecting to see.
I mean, I did mention repeatedly last week that G2 looked very impressive with how they were coming into the games with preparation strategies, and they were executing. Looking at this team fight, it was another attempt from Fnatic to dive on Celeste, but this time the Echo Baptiste was able to see Fnatic's composition for way too long, and Celeste was able to just clean up. The Echo, by the way, very interesting item because as a double CP composition, you want to have the piercing so that you can deal the damage. Broken Myth wasn't part of the items that Baptiste had, but the CC that was created from the fact that he had an Echo was enough to win the game.
Yeah, and honestly, we were talking about that at the time, and it was kind of this battle of CP versus weapon power to see which one would triumph in the end. The Echo worked out on the Baptiste. The Catherine Baptiste combo, something we've talked about a million times on the desk, does work out once again. This Kraken Steel attempt coming out from Fnatic, this was kind of last-ditch effort to try and stay in the game.
Yeah, this is one of those desperation-type plays, just doing what you can, what you think you have to do just to get yourself back involved and being a threat, but obviously doesn't work out. It's one of those plays where if it works, you look like a hero. If it doesn't, then we end up questioning why you decided to go for it. So I don't blame them for trying to make that play happen, but obviously did not work out, and G2 is able to take this one in the end.
All right, so Fnatic going to have to go back to the drawing board this week. They're still all right at the top of the scoreboard on 7 right now, but let's talk to one of our winners. Now we have Hundor standing by on Skype, so let's have a chat with him. Hundor, congratulations on your victory. How are you feeling off the back of a 2-0 against Fnatic?
Hello. Yeah, we're feeling good right now. I think we definitely played really well. Like our drafts were on point and the play also.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of the draft, a lot of G2's drafts in general are kind of focused around you. Is that a lot of pressure for you as a player to have to be kind of you're always on the Celeste, on the Sky, things that you have to kind of hard carry on? How does that feel as a player having to live up to that every single game?
Well, I definitely feel comfortable in that role. Like I feel I can do the most when I have like these strong carries such as Celeste, Idris, Scarf. Yeah, definitely feels good.
All right, so definitely something that you're comfortable stepping up onto. So you guys are going to be moving on into our semi-finals tomorrow after a comfortable 2-0. So congratulations on that. How are you feeling for the rest of the week? Are you going to go the whole way to the finals?
I'm pretty sure we can.
All right, cool. Well, hopefully you'll be able to do so. We'll see tomorrow. Congratulations on your victory today. Thank you very much for joining us, mate. And good luck in your semi-finals as well. But it's time that we start to... Thank you very much, Hundor. So it's time